Hey, Anthony.
What's going on? Season 2, episode 1.
Episode 1
of season 2, Low Expectations.
Okay.
And we don't know how much longer it's going to be Low Expectations because we are still working on a name change, which is coming. But right before we went live, I told you I don't want to discuss the newest name we came up with. Actually, Lauren came up with it, and I liked it. I tweaked it a little bit, but we're not going to discuss what it is.
I don't like being told what to do.
You said, let's just record, and then we'll talk about this later. You came in, you're a little chippy. You're a little chippy. Did you sleep? Did you get enough sleep?
I got some sleep. Look at that. Black tea right there.
I like how you're repping the Green Bay mug with me.
I know. Well, I forgot to bring a mug. I brought slippers because my feet were cold last time when I was in the studio.
It's because I turned the heat down because I overheat down here and I start sweating.
I heard Green Bay has a chance, dude.
They do. I saw...
Just like you have a chance, everybody has a chance to get shot by the police. Or a police officer has a chance.
Well, you're like already moving into the details.
Yeah. So
Go.
Like Green Bay has a chance to win, so does a police officer has a 0.08% chance of being involved in a fatal shooting.
Really?
0.08% chance with those numbers that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
0.08% chance. You know how low that is?
That's very low.
It's very low. I don't know if my math's right, or the guy that it's not my math.
It's not your math. I'm terrible at math, but yes, the Packers are in. So I'm repping hardcore. I gave you a Green Bay mug.
Yeah, I'm trying to hide it behind something here.
I'm surprised you're.
I don't even know where.
Don't knock your water
Where's our cameras,
over.
dude? Where's our cameras?
And I'm repping the Green Bay mug. I'm wearing the Green Bay.
I'm not wearing
the old school colors for Packers.
What do they call that? Retro?
Yeah, throwback. This is from like 1921.
Okay, that's
colors from. I think they used like Notre Dame colors back then.
Is that
Packers.
like
it's weird?
Like baseball and football, they were like cheating too. Like they were throwing games and stuff for money.
I don't know. I mean, I
in baseball they did that too.
In the 20s?
I don't know what year it was. It was really early on.
They're still doing it. You cannot convince me. I mean, there's going to be. Here's a prediction for 2025. Happy New Year, everyone! Happy New Year. She's like, I look at the camera. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
In a prediction for 2025, there will be a giant scandal in a professional sports. One of the professional sports of someone throwing a game on purpose or engaged in gambling, like whether it be a coach or a player.
Okay.
Because it's huge. Sports gambling right now is huge.
Betting, yeah.
So,
well, you know that because of all of the commercials.
Ton of commercials.
Yeah,
so you have to know some of these guys are involved in it and probably it's affecting things they're doing in a game. So that's a prediction I have for 2025. I guess that's not very good.
I heard a prediction that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again.
Nah.
And then Kelsey retires and Taylor Swift and him get married and have babies and ride off into the sunset and never be seen again.
Oh boy. Okay.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either. I just saw this post on X, some dude claiming that he did all this research and he had all these stats to back up the fact that the Packers were actually going to win the Super Bowl. He looked at the past Super Bowl winners for the past like 30 years or something like that, developed his ideas of why they won, laid out all these stats and said that leaves the Packers to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, you're telling me there's a chance.
So they got a chance. Yeah.
So this I don't know what's going to happen. By the time this episode goes out,
they could be out.
We'll know if they beat the Eagles.
Oh man. So
we're
talking about something that
we don't even know what I'm repping them hard.
All right.
But last night, Lauren,
what time's that game?
That's a 4:30 game.
Okay.
On Sunday. So last night, Lauren and I had a date. She wore an Eagles sweatshirt and I wore a Green Bay sweatshirt.
Oh, nice.
So everyone thought we were having a domestic the entire time we were.
Nice.
They're like,
nice. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was a great time. So, but yeah, so season 2, episode 1 of Low Expectations. This is our very first video episode. Gary's nervous. We did a patron-only video episode, and I felt like you were like very stoic. You like sat like a statue the whole time. It seemed like you didn't think
like
you
I was
could
on
move.
the stand, right? Like I was on the stand.
You were very
testifying.
like very.
I think I'm always like that though, right? I don't move around a whole lot.
No, not a whole lot. I just felt like you were
You move around
Very-
enough for the both of us. So
I do
it's
move
a little
around.
bit distracting if both of us are like gesturing and
Right.
getting crazy.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a new thing. So it might take me a while to open up to the idea and
To get
become
vulnerable.
comfortable.
To get vulnerable.
Well, I don't know about getting vulnerable, but moving around. Moving
Yeah.
around's not getting vulnerable.
Well, I guess not. You got to open up, though. You got to open up. Don't just sit there and, See, I don't think you're a big fan of the video. I get the sense from you that you haven't fully embraced it. You're not sure about it. You haven't fully embraced it. You're maybe a little grumpy about it. That's just the feeling I've been getting.
I got to have something to be grumpy about, right?
So I don't know if that's what's going on with you today when you came in the studio, because you got the grumpy wumpies.
Well, there was snow on the ground. I had to clean off the car.
Okay. All right. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. We're going to continue to mess with our lighting. You know, if you watch us and you're like, the lighting is terrible, hit us up. Tell us how to fix it.
Yeah, you shot me a text last night. You're like, wear a hat. Your head's glowing or something like that. And
I
was
seriously considered wearing a hat.
like, I brought a hat, but I
Yeah.
don't want to put it on.
I don't either because I get so hot. So
And then I don't know what
hat
to
on
do with
top.
these stupid things on my head.
Yeah. Put a hat over top of it. Just stretch it out over
Stretch
top
out.
of it.
Yeah, I don't need that.
No, we'll see how much glare we have off our domes here.
Dude, look at my beard.
It's beautiful. It's
coming
beautiful.
in, man. It's kind of getting right here at my like mouth edges.
Itchy,
No, it's like
growing down into your mouth.
yeah. So I got to trim
Well,
it up
trim
a
it.
little bit.
Trim it.
Yeah,
Trim it.
it probably won't be on too much longer.
I wish I still had mine. That no shave thing is only November, December,
Yeah.
and then I got to shave it off.
I
I
don't
wish
have
I
that.
could keep it January, February.
I don't have that policy anymore.
Yeah, you can.
I can
you
grow a
do it.
beard.
You can do it. And hopefully, I see you got your layers on. You're dressed like very nice. I just got a hoodie on. You're like,
Dude,
got
I had a date
like
night
button
last
down.
night too. This is the same shirt. Actually, it's the same outfit that I wore.
You just pulled it off
I
the
just-
bedroom floor.
Yeah, it was on the bedroom floor and I threw it back on
Nice.
and came over. Yeah.
I like it. I
Thanks.
like it. So we'll see. We'll see if how much weight this adds to
I know.
us.
I just don't want to look fat.
And the other thing too is from the side.
Yeah.
Have you ever Cro-Magnon men? Like ancient
Okay.
men, ancient
Yeah,
people.
sure.
So from the side,
The cave dwellers, right?
Right.
Even though we have pyramids, we have all these fancy things.
right.
Okay.
So they I'm just throwing this out there. Like if you look up a picture of Cro-Magnon men, and maybe when I edit the video, I could throw a picture up on the screen. But from the side, I really got that look.
Oh,
Whether-
you have it.
Yeah, I have that look. And I feel like when I'm pictured from the side, it's like very distinct. I have like a monkey ape look to me from the side. Like literally,
I think I look like a fish, right? Because we came from fish, right? We crawled out of the ocean and then we slowly, progressed.
So you think you're at fish stage.
I think I'm
at
at fish stage.
I'm at ape stage.
Okay.
So I feel like those scientists who believe in evolution, if they look at me from the side, they're like, see,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we came from monkeys.
But it's only in your face though, because your arms are too short to be like the
Right, I'm
ape
not like-
arms. You don't have the long arms.
I'm not a knuckle dragger. Ugh.
The old knuckle draggers.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll see how this all works out.
So this will probably be our episodes will probably be a little bit shorter.
I don't know. I mean, we have been trying to keep them in that hour
Hour and a half.
15
Yeah.
hour and a half minute range, and we have been doing that. So yeah, I mean that's our plan is not to have them any longer than that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I feel like there's so much to talk about. We were off all December,
Yeah.
which was great. But there's so much going on. There's so much stuff that we could talk about. I did want to get out at the very top here an update on the Daniel Penny case. We talked about it on the patron only episode, not guilty on all charges. The latest on that case is Penny's now trying to get the civil lawsuit dismissed.
Okay.
So the deceased person's dad has now magically appeared on the scene, wanted
Right.
nothing to do with his son
That's
for
right.
years and years, but
Yeah,
now
not the when he was a baby or
Yeah.
a child. Yeah.
and we talked about this on the patron episode. Now that his son has died, he sees an opportunity to make money off his dead son, which is just evil. So Daniel Penny's trying to get that dismissed. I just got an update on Officer Marquette. Remember Officer Marquette, our friend and fellow police officer? He just a couple days ago, his attorney is filing a self-defense immunity hearing. So basically, Officer Marquette charged with murder for defending his life, the life of other officers, the life of the tow truck driver. His attorney, well, I'll just read this article from Fox 54. I literally just got this right before we got on the podcast here. Mac Bailey Marquette's attorneys filed a motion on Tuesday requesting an immunity hearing under Alabama's Stand Your Ground law. They argue that Marquette acted in self-defense during the shooting that occurred in Perkins' front yard while a vehicle was being repossessed. So that's the latest on that case. They're going to try to, they're going to try.
That's probably a civil law, so it's probably not like police related. You know what I mean? Like it's immunity based on the fact that you can stand your ground, like our Castle Doctrine.
Right. I have not dived into exactly where
dove into, but
I have not dove into.
I could be wrong.
I have not dove. You're right.
All right. I'm with you, dude.
Good job.
That's why we're a team, buddy. We're a team.
So that's we'll see what happens with that. That case is ongoing. We continue to follow that and support him because it's crazy that he's been charged with murder. It's crazy that he's facing civil litigation over it, but him and his attorney are fighting it. So
can't wait till he gets all that back pay when he gets it reinstated.
He will get back pay hopefully, because I do believe he'll be found not guilty.
Yeah,
or these cases will get dismissed. I mean, I can't. There's not much clearer case of self-defense.
Yep.
An officer, faced with a deadly threat, and again, people have gotten all tied up in peripheral things about the case, but in the moment when force was used, it was fully justified. Right. So,
and the climate is changing, which is exciting.
Yeah,
for all law enforcement.
Yeah. So the other thing I quick wanted to put out there is recently I was on an Invitation to Peace podcast with Chad Campisi, an Invitation to Peace podcast. If you check that out, I did an interview with him. I would say it was probably the most open and honest. I don't want to say honest. Open
the right
dishonest.
word. Because you've been honest.
Probably the most open and vulnerable and forthcoming about kind of my career and some of the struggles Lauren and I went through. So that just got released last week.
What's it called? An Invitation to Peace.
To Peace, yeah, with Chad Campisi, Campese.
Okay.
For his last name.
Yeah, so if you want to hear Anthony's story.
Yeah. So hopefully it's a help to people who listen to it, especially guys and gals in the first responder community. And hopefully it brought glory to God, because I was clear about how my faith in Jesus Christ really sustains me every day. So, and definitely sustained me during my career with Lancaster City. So, yeah. So speaking of Lancaster City, right before we got on, I saw this news update that the homicide rate in Lancaster City, our past employer, the past department we worked for, had the lowest homicide rate in the city, in Lancaster City, since 1983.
Dude, that's great.
Yeah, that is great. Why do you think that is?
The implementation of social workers, I'm sure. What? You don't think that's true?
No.
Dude,
why do you really think?
It's cyclic. It's all. I think it's all it is. It's just cyclic. We have a great trauma center in Lancaster City. I think it's a tier 1 or something like that. Or it's like, I mean, basically they can bring you back to life very, very well.
Yeah, that is, I think, one thing that, just generally speaking, when you are looking at homicide rates, murder rates in the U.S., generally, I think they would be much, much higher, and our crime rates would be much, much higher if you didn't have the level of medical care that we now have.
Yeah.
So and I think that's a big part of what keeps the homicide rate, the murder rate down in Lancaster City, because we have that top-rated trauma hospital literally in the city.
I mean, I've been out of the city for 6-8 months now. So, but what I would say is a lot of the violent crime is being done by youths, young boys.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're just wild. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're shooting wildly. So, maybe lots of shootings and even people getting hit, but it's not like targeted, I don't want to say legit gang stuff, but the old school guys, in the early 2000s, they were hits. You know what I mean? Like dudes walking up beside somebody, pretending to do a deal and just zap him in his head. You know what I mean? That was the kind of stuff that we were dealing with. when we were on the street. And so I think that's more like targeted versus just like these little kids just.
Yeah.
Kids aren't as good as adults at a lot of things. So like shooting each other is one of them.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the alarming things, and we've talked about it on the podcast, is how young some of these kids are that are engaged in this level of violent crime. But I do think it would be interesting to do a deeper dive into that stat and look at, compared to 1983, how many people were shot in 1983 compared to this past year in 2024. I think that would kind of be a little more, I think it would just be interesting. I would guess that, over the years, we've had many more people shot in Lancaster City than we did in years past. But medical care and what you're talking about has probably helped to keep that murder rate down. Yeah. I also think that the unit I was leading at the end of my career has done, if they ever get rid of that unit in the city, I think you will see the crime rate and the level of violence rise dramatically very soon. Because, and the reason I say that is, when I started in Lancaster City, there was the city drug suppression unit. For reasons unknown to me, my understanding is there were problems on that unit. So instead of dealing with the problems, they just disbanded it. As soon as they disbanded that unit, the level of violence and drug activity on the streets went through the roof, to the point where only a couple years later they created the selective enforcement unit because it was becoming such a problem. And what I saw over the years is that every year that unit, not just the years I was on it as an officer and then as a supervisor, but every year that unit did so much work dealing with that part of the community that is engaged in violence, because a lot of that is driven by the drug trade and everything like that. Right. So
almost everything revolves around the drug game.
Right. So I think that unit really drives the amount of shootings and murders down.
Yeah, they're crushing guys.
Yeah,
crushing them.
Constantly.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it. So yeah, that I thought that was cool. Lowest murder rate since, what did I say? Since 83.
That's pretty good.
So, but on the other side,
oh boy,
I'm gonna bring this up because you brought up the social workers. So
that was a joke.
I know
it's just a joke.
I know, but
they're doing good work.
Yeah, for sure. And I have nothing against social workers.
You wouldn't know that by the way you talk about it. Your thing is social workers as part of a police department, as if it's like part of the mission, or if it's like it becomes the mission.
I think it's a blind spot in law enforcement right now, where what is this doing to help the mission and push forward the mission of enforcing the law? Like, what is social workers being attached to police departments and responding to calls, and is that really helping the mission of the police department, or is it one of those things that slow drip where we're just kind of veering off what the police are really called to do?
I think it's helpful.
That's my
you
question.
And I differ on this quite a bit, I think.
Well, I'm not even saying I don't think it's helpful. I'm just saying, I think there's been this move in the social work direction that is slowly moving police departments off mission, where it's more about, resources and, getting homeless outreach and drug and alcohol outreach. And so there's these huge pushes in these police departments and huge amounts of money being spent on something that I don't think is the role of law enforcement. So I'm not saying it's not helping, and I'm not even saying it shouldn't be happening. I'm just saying I think there's this slow digression away from actually what the mission of law enforcement is, which is to enforce the law. We're not social workers. That's not our role in the community. And I see so many departments trying to make it our primary role in the community is to be social workers. That has a place and it has a part. And so maybe it is a good thing to have social workers, responding to calls and with the police. Maybe it is. I don't know. I think we've kind of just lost track of what our true mission is in law enforcement generally. I'm making an overgeneralization right now.
All right, tell us about the story.
So the city, Lancaster City, released this Crime Watch article, news update, whatever. Says on January 7th, 2025, around 8:30 a.m., Lancaster City officers responded to a report of an individual experiencing a medical emergency on the first block of East Walnut Street. When officers arrived on the scene, they located an unconscious adult male. They immediately began life-saving efforts by utilizing an automated external defibrillator, an AED, but unfortunately, the individual could not be saved. The coroner was called to the scene. That's what they put out.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So
a person died.
A person died, and they released this. I'm not sure why they decided to release it. Like, people die all the time in jurisdictions. Like, and we don't. It was a medical thing. It wasn't. There was nothing suspicious about this death. Like there was no. But they put this out. So I'm not sure why the decision was to put out that a person died and the police were there.
Yeah. Who cares?
I think it was probably because of where it happened. It happened at a place that assists the homeless.
Okay.
And serves food to the homeless. So I think that's why they put it out.
Okay.
I think that's why they put it out. Or it happened. I shouldn't say it happened at that place. It happened like in that block, because I was looking at that block and I know a location there, and I believe that's probably why they put that out. So they put that out at 3:38 p.m. on January 8th. Okay. At 8:34 p.m. on the same day, so like about 6 hours later, 5 hours later, they put out an edit to this article, and it says, "We are aware some members of the public were present during this incident and understand some may have difficulty," they misspelled it, or processing what happened. "Our police social workers are available to assist those who may experience trauma from yesterday's incident. Walk-ins are available at the police station, or they can set an appointment on our website." This is what I'm talking about. Just hear me out.
All right.
If you would have said 50 years ago, if you would have presented to a chief 50 years ago, "Hey, we want to attach a social worker to your police department, and then we want to invite members of the public to come in to get counseling for trauma they experienced at a death scene you were at," the chief would have been like, "No, we're a police department. We're not offering counseling to the general public." I want to know what happened in those 5 hours from the original time this was put out to this edit was put out. What conversations were being had?
Well, I think we're just learning to use the tools that the police department has to better the community. That's all I think it is. Like, I don't think there's a conspiracy and
No, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm just saying, is this what a police department should be focused on? Should a police department be focused on?
It's not the focus, though. This is a peripheral thing. It's not a focus. It's just another facet that they can do. So, like, I think Lancaster is focused on going after the bad guys,
Correct.
doing the things.
I agree with you.
And then there's like something that's out of focus here in your peripheral vision. We got social workers. We can have them. They need some more work to do, so we'll give them some work to do.
But is that a good financial decision to be pouring money into social work programs?
So you're already paying them. Like, they're already part of the budget.
Right.
Social workers are already part of the budget. So,
but that's what I'm asking.
Give them work.
Is that what a police department should be spending money on?
Sure. So I guess they could have pointed them to the Y or some counseling service that's not free.
Right.
Maybe they could do that. And like, they're not getting like sit down counseling sessions. It's going to be a short conversation. "Hey, I'm sorry that you saw that. Everything's going to be okay. Hey, here's a pamphlet for the Y, or here's a pamphlet for counseling services if you need more
Correct. Help." And like getting them to resources that can truly give them assistance and help them. I get that. But you're inviting a police station is supposed to be a secure area. Okay. So you already have members of the public coming in to make reports,
pay bills, whatever.
Yeah.
Check on the status of their person they haven't seen because they got warrants and whatever.
Ask about someone who's been arrested or whatever. But now we're just inviting members of public into the police station to talk to social workers.
So you're saying, why not just go to City Hall, or why not?
Yeah, I guess
why is everything why is everything being put on the shoulders of the police department?
Why is the police department responsible for?
Yeah, they're already taxed as in like they're already asked to do a lot of things. Like
Right.
police officers are asked to do a lot. We're medical providers. We're you know what I mean? Like we're
Right.
all of those things. So adding somebody coming into the police station, it just creates more chaos, maybe.
Right. And in the grand scheme of things, I understand like it's helpful for a police officer to know what resources he has and be able to get people to those resources because again, they aren't social workers.
Yeah.
They
and they want to help.
aren't, and they want to help people,
Sure.
Get to a certain point. Like if someone is struggling with drug or alcohol addiction is at that point where they want to get help. I've referred people
Sure.
to certain organizations and places in Lancaster County that can help them. So I get that, but now we're not referring them. We're saying no. We the police department, we're going to hire our own social workers and we're going to help you.
Come to us.
Come to us.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I don't understand. I don't know. I think it just muddies the water of the mission for a police department because, okay, are you a police department? Or are you doing social work? Like,
Yeah.
And I think there just needs to be more separation
Okay.
with it because I think I think it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes good things can be done in the wrong areas or kind of not be the true mission of the
Yeah,
of
it
the
can
police
sidetrack
department.
a little bit, or it can make a drift, or be a slow drift, or whatever.
Right.
I get it.
I just think it's a mission. I just think the welcoming of social workers into law enforcement is just part of that mission drift I see happening where we're trying to do all these peripheral things that are good things, but it's not our role as law enforcement.
Yeah.
Like our role as law enforcement is very specific. And I think we're in trying to appease the public and make ourselves look good. We've taken on all these other things that take away from what we're actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's not, they didn't ask like EMS personnel to take on social workers. I mean, that might be a better way because those people are in crisis and need medical attention.
Well, I think that's a perfect example. You don't have co-responding social workers with EMS or firefighters.
Yeah.
Why is it with the police?
Right. Yeah, and you don't have them at City Hall. Right? Like why not send the public to City Hall or to like a substation of City Hall, the city government
Right.
that can help versus just adding more to the police department.
Right.
I think that's what's frustrating to me is just like you're asking guys to do more with less.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And more and more and more and more. And not only are we asking you to go out there and enforce the law, but now we're asking you to, get this person in this program. And, it's again, it's not, why is it the police? Yeah. Why don't we have social workers responding with EMS?
Right.
They're responding to all kinds of things. They're responding to elderly people who need resources. They're responding to people who are in the throes of addiction. They're responding to people who are suicidal. Why is it the police are the ones that need to be all wrapped up in the social worker world?
Right.
Like I guess I just don't understand that. And again, I think it's because generally right now there's just been mission drift in the field and a desire to try to appease the public because people aren't comfortable with police are here to enforce the law.
Yes. And I think that you're trying to build trust in the community. Like they're hoping that builds trust with the community because the loud voices are like, we don't trust the cops.
Right.
So I think that's also another thing, right? Like let's do this together as a
And
community.
so this article about the death and then the edit, I'm just like, so why in this instance are we inviting the public into the police station for a peripheral counseling? Are we going to do this at every death scene now?
Right.
For all witnesses at every death scene? Like what
Maybe this one was unique just in that, like if this was like in a place where people are being in the shelter.
Okay.
And, you know, there's lots of beds, so lots of people are around and they're seeing somebody die.
Okay.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Okay.
So, but I'm not sure, like, why not do a critical incident stress debrief there? You know what I mean? Like,
and we don't
invite it to them. If
Right.
social worker, go out there, you know what I mean? Go out there to the place and say, hey, I'm here for the next 4 hours after you
Right.
get served lunch and we can talk.
But we don't,
need to.
and we don't offer it to the families of of murder victims. But that's my thing. So we're offering it here. Is this now something the police department's going to offer at every death scene? And
or
if
like
it
a
is
shooting scene, the family's all spun up.
Right,
So you
everyone's
use the social worker. Sure.
Yeah. Like, is this something that's now going to be offered? Is this now police officers? Hey, every time you're at a death scene, you know, take note of who's there, witnesses, and then, you know, refer them to the social worker, you know, on a report. And then we're going to reach out to them one-on-one and talk to them. Again, like if that's something we're going to do, it's taking away from the mission of the police department.
Yeah.
That should not be the mission. I get it. Like, those people need counseling. They need
Right.
help. They're traumatized, you know, but I don't know that that's the role of the police department. I don't think that's the role of the police department. I think that's mainly what it comes down to. A good thing, social worker, you know, being able to connect people to social workers, good
Yeah.
thing. I just don't know how much of a role the police department should have in that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, friends. Yeah. And if you have thoughts, shoot us a comment.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hey,
So this goes out on YouTube, right?
yeah.
So you got to subscribe, you got to like, you got to make a comment. Like, that's all we're asking, right? Like, that's what
Yeah,
we're
sure.
like, that
Yeah.
messes with the algorithm. You even give us a bad state comment. Like, hey, you guys are idiots. Social workers are great. Like, that's perfect. Like, whatever. It doesn't, like, this is the
I have
new way
nothing.
of
I just want to say I don't have anything against social workers.
No, I know
don't-
you don't. I know you don't. I know.
I just don't know. I'm just trying to figure
Where's it
out if
fit
they
in-
should be attached to law enforcement.
I'm with you. That's why I'm saying, like, we can boost the pot. It's the first one on YouTube here. It's
Right.
the first one on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you've just crushed an entire, like, sector of people that are now in law enforcement, even though you don't like it.
No. I think part of the problem too is there's a lot of people who are trying to get into law enforcement who believe it is social work.
Yeah.
And then they get in and they're like, "Oh, wait a second. This
Yeah.
isn't social work."
I actually have to chase this bad guy, or I actually have to fight this
Yeah,
guy.
and I can't.
Yeah.
My words aren't going to get this person to
Yeah.
do what I want them to do. So
Right.
now I have to fight with them. I didn't sign up for this,
Right.
which is wild to me.
Yeah.
You know, but if you go to a lot of police departments' Facebook, you know, and you scroll through, you're like, oh, there's just all about community engagement.
Or even though you go the about stuff,
Right.
The about, like, we have police social workers, or we have, you know, we want to work with the community and make a
Right.
whatever it is.
It's like prominent. It's like the prominent way police departments are trying to get people to come in. Like, we're all about community engagement. We have hired social workers. They co-respond here, and
As if that's enticing. And I
but
guess
it is enticing to people.
Yeah.
But I think it's enticing to the wrong people that you want being police officers. You don't want a social work minded person in police work.
I agree.
You want a law and order minded person. You want someone who understands the true mission is to enforce the law and deal with people who don't want to follow the law. And so if you push this idea of social work constantly, you
I don't want to argue about this the entire time, Anthony, but, like, you can be a well-rounded officer, right?
I
like,
get
it's just another facet. That's all it is.
But you go into a police department's website. Okay, listen. You go into a police
I
department's
agree with
website.
you. I agree.
And all you see are people smiling with their arms around children in school,
Shooting basketball.
basketball, sitting on a stoop with someone, laughing, shaking hands with a community member. That's all you see on the web when you open their website.
That's what.
And
you see.
I think this. I haven't checked Lancaster City's website recently, but I think this is what you see on Lancaster City's website. That's what you see. And you're like, if you're the type of person who has that drive to, like, you know, want to, you know, more of like a social work type drive. You're like, oh wow,
I want to hug a kid. I want to shoot basketball
like,
with a kid.
This is really cool. Like I really like what this department is doing. And then you get there and you're like, wait a second, I got to go respond to a shooting. And wait, now there's a guy running with a gun.
I got to hold this. I got to hold this baby who just died.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
I got to respond to a suicide with someone hanging in their basement.
I got to pull out this guy who's burning in a car. Right? All of these things. Yeah. From an accident, like all the things. Yeah.
Wait, this guy tried to punch me in the face. Like I just got spit on.
I got to put my finger in this hole that doesn't belong in this guy because he just got shot. Yeah. I got to put a tourniquet on this guy.
Yeah. And that isn't pictured.
Or this guy's going to talk meanly to me because I asked him not to sit on this stoop because it's posted no trespassing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a different feel to if you put up like pictures of cops actually doing law enforcement on your website, you're going to draw different type of person is going to be drawn to that. Like, oh, I want to do that. That looks exciting. Yeah. You got to be athletic to do that. You got to be in good shape. You got to be able
to show some
like,
cop jumping a fence. You know what I mean? Or,
I'm just like, you're showing a bunch of pictures of really what is not our mission.
Right. Or it isn't even what actually happens.
Right.
On a shift. Yeah.
Yeah. My mission is not to go out and see how many, kids I can get pictures with. That's not my mission. Oh my word. It does drive me nuts. And
I could see that.
I'm not, that article that I just read is not a bad thing, but I think it just points to a broader problem.
It was a jumping point to talk about.
Yeah, it points to a broader problem I see in law enforcement, and
every time I grab my cup, you grab yours. You know what it's called? It's called mirroring. You know that, right? Yeah. Like, that we're interviewing each other, but like
trying to open you up. I mirror everything you do.
It's freaking
except I'm kind of arguing with you, so
kind of. We're saying the same thing. I'm just trying to soften it a little bit because sometimes you're a little aggressive.
Okay, here's a crazy story for you. Right. In 2021, I just saw this.
Okay.
A guy was missing food. Like he kept noticing food was disappearing from his apartment in New York. I think it was New York.
Okay.
Okay. So he accused his girlfriend of taking food while he was sleeping, like eating, like stealing food. I think they lived together or something. But he was like, this food keeps disappearing. You and I are the only two in here. What are you doing? Like eating in the
How
middle
long
of the
was
night?
this going on?
I think it was like a couple weeks.
Okay.
So he sets up a camera. All right. The camera captures. When I read this story, I was like, this is not true. But I looked into it and it's like a true story. He sets up a camera. Here, a homeless woman, a houseless woman,
an
unsheltered woman.
Okay.
A woman in need of police social workers.
Yeah.
Somehow broke into this apartment when he wasn't there, gained access to a cupboard that was up high, up in his kitchen, was living in this cupboard for like 2 weeks, just living in it, just staying in it. And at night when they went to bed, he got video of her like crawling out of the cupboard, down onto the kitchen floor, opening the refrigerator door, taking food, watching TV. Like,
so she like learned his schedule.
Yeah.
And when he was not there, she would come out of the cupboard.
Or when he was sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome.
I was just like, that's crazy.
What'd they charge her with?
I don't know. I didn't look into it that far, what they charge her with. I think
funny.
Like burglary, trespassing, whatever. But
do you know, was it like a typical apartment or was this like a rich apartment?
I have no idea. You're asking me. I didn't.
That's funny though. That's funny. Living in a cupboard.
Yeah. Have you ever cleared your house? Have you ever gotten to your house and seen something wonky and cleared the whole thing?
Dude, I dropped a kid off for basketball one time. This was actually pretty recent. I dropped the kid off. I knew that the family wasn't going to be there. He was like 12, 13, whatever. So like he was only going to be home by himself for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I pull into their driveway and the garage door's open.
Uh-oh.
And I go, hey man, is your garage door normally open? He looked at me kind of like nervous.
Right.
He's like, no. I go, nobody's home, right? He's like, yeah, nobody's home. I go, do you want me to check your house? And he goes, yes, please. So I literally am in my friend's house. I mean, I know them pretty well, but I've literally never been in their house. I've just dropped the kid off a bunch of times.
Okay.
Right? So I literally go in, I pull my gun and I'm literally checking the house. I cleared the entire house.
Right.
And so then I text the parents. I'm like, hey, this is a little bit awkward. I got I dropped her off your kid and whatever. I told them the
Right.
story. I'm sorry I went through your whole house. And they just, every time I see them, they're like, oh, I can't believe you saw my bedroom and this and that. I'm like
they were embarrassed by that.
a little bit embarrassed, but they were thankful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It was
I
fun.
mean, it is. I've cleared our house. I've cleared my mom's house.
Yeah. I've never looked into my cupboards.
Well, that's what I was going to
What?
say. Like
You
this
couldn't
is
fit in my cupboards. Like I don't have a,
you could fit in some of your cupboards. I've been in your house.
no, you couldn't.
All right.
There's
Next time I'm at your
places-
house, I'm going to pull everything out of your cupboards. I'm going to get up in there.
Well,
and
yeah,
show
but
you.
if you pull them out, then I'm going to know you're in there because it's full of stuff.
I'm just saying you should check cupboards and dryers and wash machines.
Yeah.
Check those. Check the crawl spaces. If you're going to clear a house, check everything. So
Yeah.
one of my I remember finding that I think he was wanted. I think we were in the house because we are looking for a wanted guy. I had like a felony drug warrant on or something, and there was those crawl spaces that go the length of like attic rooms.
Yeah.
In the city houses, where we get up there and we're pretty sure he's in there, and yeah, you just pop that door open, throw a little pepper spray in there.
Let it
Shut
breathe. Let it breathe for a little bit.
Because you don't want to poke your head in there.
No, it's
So
dangerous.
all of a sudden, you hear him coughing. He starts coming. He had like long dreads. I grab him by the dreads and just pull him out of the
Yeah.
and take him. And,
Yeah, you can. There's a lot of places to hide. Like if you want to
Yeah.
hide,
dude, we cleared. This was one of the embarrassing things that happened in my career. One time, we cleared. You might have been on the unit when this happened. You and I might have been on the unit when this happened. Over on, I can't. Dude, I'm starting to lose my geography in the city. But anyways, we clear this house, and on the third floor is like several inches of clothes on the floor. We clear the house. No one's in the house. They do a secondary, or that we start the search, and there's two people that were hiding underneath the clothes. Were you on the unit when that happened?
I don't remember it.
I think it was either one or two people that were literally when we went in the house, they literally like
So they
hid.
laid prone underneath the clothes.
Prone under all these clothes. And when we went up to the room, we checked the room, but we didn't like stomp all the clothes. Ever since then,
You stomp clothes.
yes,
Yeah.
I was up there and I missed them. There was a couple of us up there,
Yeah.
and
That's a terrible feeling to miss
we
somebody.
missed them.
Yeah.
So
Especially when you think how big a human is.
right
Like you think how big a human
Yeah.
is, and you miss somebody
Yeah.
like that. It's
now I open
dangerous.
closets.
Yeah.
Like if I'm searching, I open a closet and there's like big bags of clothes and stuff. I donkey
Start
kick that stuff as hard as I
booting it.
can. Yeah,
Booting
because
it, yeah.
people can hide, but
Yeah.
but pepper spray's your friend too in those crawl spaces.
Yeah.
So yeah. Did I ever tell you my favorite pepper spray story?
I mean, you probably have. But
The barbershop that was also like, I don't know if it was a speakeasy, but barbershop on King Street. We kept getting complaints from neighbors that they were having parties after the barbershop closed, loud noise, that sort of thing. So one night, me and a past guest on Diakonos, Stoltzfus, we go out there and we realized that they had a back room with a mirror, like a sliding door that had a mirror on it. So if the door was completely shut, it just looked like a wall,
okay.
a mirrored wall. But they hadn't shut the door completely. It was cracked like this much. So you could see through the crack and see a bunch of guys back there playing pool, smoking and joking. But the front door to the barbershop's closed. And we just got a call for the noise and everything. So we're like banging on the door, shining our flashlights and stuff. They're not answering the door. One point, one guy looks out, sees us, and just closes the door. I'm like, nope.
Sent you to the moon.
Oh man. I'm like, nope.
Oh,
this
that's funny.
is so we're like trying to work on getting a key holder,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how we're going to get in here. And Stoltzfus is like, I don't know. He's like, we're kind of running out of options. I said, we're not leaving here unless we have someone in handcuffs. Like this is happening. So I go around to the back of the building, and the back room they were in had an air conditioning unit that
Okay.
was on. This was summertime.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, I know what we're going to do. I said, we just need the right sergeant to give us the approval.
Yeah.
So I called.
So you're looking at who's on. All right. Which sergeant's on? All right. Which guy can I
Right.
call?
So I had my guy, I call him over. I said, hey, Sarge, this is what I want to do. You okay with it? He's like, yep. Grab my pepper spray fogger, go to the air conditioning unit, spray the air conditioning unit, sucks all that pepper spray into the room. We just stand at the front. Sure enough,
They all came out.
we arrested somebody.
Oh man,
He came out.
that's funny. How many people were in there?
I think 4 or 5,
Okay.
maybe.
That's funny.
But the main guy that came out, maybe it was only 2, but the main guy that came out and finally opened the door, we clinked him up and took him in.
That's funny.
So that was my favorite.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's good.
So all right. So
Whoa.
I mean, we're like 45 minutes into this thing, and we didn't even scratch the surface of everything we're going to talk about.
Yelling about social workers.
So we wanted to break down some of the 2024 stats.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. This should be pretty quick. This is pretty interesting.
So this is interesting.
It's from what, law enforcement?
Police Law News.
Yeah, on X.
Police.law.news, I think is, police.law.news on X.
I actually found this one, right?
Yeah, you did.
I did some show
Good
prep.
job. Good
Look at me go.
job, Gary. So he put out like a 5-part. So the Washington Post, I think he got these stats off Washington Post. They keep track of officer involved shootings, and they're real big on the disproportionate. They love to use this word disproportionate amount of Black people that are killed by the police. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But he put out 1,133 people were fatally shot by police officers in 2024. 1,068 of those fatally shot by police were men. And he just says, should we blame systemic sexism?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
the majority of people guys shot were men, which makes sense. More
We're
men.
profiling men.
Yeah, we're profiling men. But that makes sense because men commit more serious crime. 237 of those fatally shot by police were Black. 350 of those fatally shot by police were white. And this is where Washington Post likes to talk about the disproportionate amount of Black men being shot by police by white men. Even though more white men were shot by police, Black people only make up about 14% of the population.
So there's more white people in the United States, so you would assume that more white people would be shot, right?
Right. And they are.
That's what the stats show, yeah.
The stats show that more white people, specifically white men, are shot than Black men.
Right.
But the Washington Post zeroes in on the disproportionate amount of Black men. They're saying Black men, or they're saying Black people are only 14% of the population, yet they're being shot at a far higher rate than white men who make up, or white people that make up a greater amount of the population. Make sense?
Yeah.
So they always want to hit on that. The thing that the Washington Post doesn't hit on, and I think, to have an honest conversation about this, you have to look at, if you want to say the amount of Black people shot by the police is disproportionate, you have to look at the crime rates in the same community. You can't just throw that stat out there.
And these are nationwide
stats
stats versus like individual communities. That's
correct.
That's also a very difficult part of these kind of stats. I think it's super hard because every community is different.
Right. Every community is different, but yeah, they're nationwide.
Right.
They're nationwide stats. So Washington Post harps on this. Generally Black people make up 14% of the population. And we know that most of, the most people being shot by the police are men. So you can even bring that percentage down. You could say 8% of the Black population is made up of men. So you're even narrowing that amount of people even down even further. And then you could even narrow it down even further because most of the crime committed by men is ages 18 to 39, I think they say. So that number keeps shrinking.
Right.
And Washington Post says, well, so you're telling me, 7% of the population is being, was shot by police this many times. Well, that's disproportionate. But you also have to look at the crime rate. Like you can't just pull that out, that stat out and just rely on that. You also have to look at the crime rate. Well, when you look at the crime rates, now you have roughly 8% of the population is committing over half of the murders in the country. Roughly 8% of the population is committing the majority, over half of the robberies in the country. Okay, those two stats. And then if you look at the other crimes, you have 8% of the population is committing a disproportionate amount of other crimes. They only make up 8%. Again, we're narrowing that down for men 18 to 39.
Yeah.
So you have to look at those stats as well. And that's an uncomfortable conversation for two white dudes to have.
For sure.
but it's a stat that you have to look at, and you have to say.
And I always look at stats. You can do anything with stats. Like if you just like change the parameters and you can manipulate things, I think.
Well, you can. I don't know that you can't manipulate stats. You can pick and choose what stats you want.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't. A stat is a stat. Like,
Right.
But you're right. You can take certain stats and use them to promote
Your
your
or whatever, yeah.
idea or agenda. But a stat's a stat. So yes, proportionally, more black men are being shot than white men based on population amounts. But proportionally, more black men are committing more crime than white men.
Right.
So you can't. You have to look at both of them, and you have to say, well, if that's the case, then these numbers aren't that disproportionate.
Yeah, and you would assume that that's going to be the case, right? If more of the population is committing more of the violent crime, they're going to have more interaction with the police.
Right. If you have a population that is committing the majority of crime or a disproportionate amount of crime, they're obviously going to have more interaction with the police.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think is often ignored by these, woke talking pundits. They just want to harp on the disproportionate amount of black men who are killed by the police based on the population. Well, that's not an honest conversation. You have to dive a little deeper. I found this website called BradyUnited.org, and they had some super interesting stats about murders committed in the black community. And I'm trying to go down through here right now and get some of these stats. And they hit on this. They go, despite accounting for only 13.6% of the U.S. population, black people account for 27% of those shot and killed by police since 2015. Again, like you have to dig a little further into those stats. I think.
And the only reason that I want to talk about this at all,
okay,
because I don't actually care what part of the community is doing what part of the crime.
Okay.
I do not care.
Go.
But the reason I think it's important to talk about this is because it's a one-sided conversation. And I don't even actually want to talk about this, but it's a one-sided thing, right? Like you're not hearing from both sides on this generally.
Like I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Like I hate breaking down based on colors of people's skins. Like who cares? Like I guess there's people that care, and the people that care, it doesn't mean anything to me. I guess it's just hard for me to talk about this because I don't necessarily care. I like when you're breaking it down. Well, okay, is it rural dwelling people or is it people in the cities? Is it this kind of people? Like they're just the criminals are being shot by the police. That's what this is showing.
Right.
That's what this is showing.
Yeah.
People who commit violent crimes are being shot or having interactions with the police and are those who are being shot. Police are not shooting innocent people.
Right.
I think that's the point the only thing that I cared about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a content of character issue.
Yes. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin.
Right. And I think,
my humble, stupid opinion,
right. And it doesn't, but that's what I'm saying. Like the Washington Post pushes this idea that it does. Which is
why it's nice to be able to push back a little bit.
Right. And so this website, BradyUnited.org, like they say at the
top. Who are they? Because like
I have no idea.
It makes me nervous that
I'm just citing the website. I don't know much about this website. I just found this website through some of the research I was doing, and right at the top they have gun violence as a racial justice issue. I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. Like guns aren't racist,
right?
And if it's a racial, I don't even know what that means. Gun violence is a racial justice issue. And then they lay out this case of why they believe it's a racial justice issue, coming constantly back to the fact that black people only make up 14% of the population, but are being killed at a higher rate by gun violence. And I'm like, okay, so I still don't understand why that's a racial thing.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a content of character thing. Like what's happening in these communities to cause that to happen? We have to have an honest conversation and be like, why is that? Why is there more gun violence in a black community than a white community? Like it's not a racial thing. Like,
yeah, and that's not something like we're cops. Like that's not our thing.
Right. And the other thing about this is that the majority of the victims of this gun violence are also Black.
Yeah. Which makes sense because communities generally live together.
Right.
Like, and that's just how it is.
So the majority of your suspects committing gun violence are Black, but they're doing it against other Black people, like the majority.
Yeah.
So despite accounting for only 14, this is from this website, despite accounting for only 14% of the U.S. population, Black people account for 60% of those killed by firearm homicide each year. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, but you know, people squirm when you start like having these conversations about stats, about what's happening in the Black community, and, you know, having honest conversations about why that's happening. And you and I have talked, I think fatherlessness is hands down the biggest problem in that community. I would say 95% or more of the guys I arrested, both Black, white, Hispanic, had no idea either didn't know who their dad was not in their life, their dad was in prison, their dad was dead.
Yeah, or had zero relationship with him. Walked out.
So I think that's a huge issue. But I think you need to have an honest conversation about the stats to be able to have an honest conversation about what is happening in these communities. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
what were the other things that guy said on that tweet? Because I thought the rest of it was good too.
Yeah.
So he mentioned like the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else did he say?
He said 200. Oh, I already read that. 788 of those fatally shot by police were under the age of 45. 984 of those fatally shot by police were armed with a gun, which 86%, almost 87% of those fatally shot by police were armed with a gun.
Yeah. I mean, those are all just like, there's nothing getting around that. Those are all justified. Even the knives one. Right. I don't think he put that in there, but.
Well, and the Washington Post said 9 unarmed Black men were fatally shot by police. Police Law News says in 4 cases, the suspect attempted to or was successful in disarming the officer.
Which makes him armed.
Right.
But okay.
In 1 case, the suspect attacked the officer with a knife. So out of those 9, 5 are, And the other 4, so the other 4 of those 9 where Washington Post says they are unarmed, like you could have a guy bouncing an officer's head off the sidewalk.
Right.
Washington Post will say that guy's unarmed.
Right.
So just because.
So we don't know we don't know about 4 of them.
We don't know about 4 of them, like what the details of those were.
Right.
Okay. Washington Post calls someone armed with a knife unarmed.
Right.
In some of their stats. So just because you hear unarmed, which the press loves to push at, unarmed, he was unarmed, right. Doesn't mean an officer is not justified in shooting and or killing.
That's pretty good year.
Yeah. I mean, that's generally the average. Generally, on average, the police shoot and kill right around 1,000 to 1,200 people a year. That's generally been the stat for the last several.
You would think that would be a lot higher, but that's very low.
Right. And
considering the number of police interactions with individuals.
Yeah. I wanted to look up how many generally in a year, how many million interactions the police have. It's millions.
Yeah.
And I forget. I wish I would have looked that up. It's a huge amount of interactions that the police generally have every year. And out of all those interactions, only 1,133 ended in a person shot and killed by the police in 2024, which is a minute, way, way, way less than 1% of every interaction ended that way. So, love to put, like 1,133 people were shot and killed by the police. It sounds like a lot, but when you,
that's a great number.
Again, you push that stat out, but if you don't dig deeper into that stat and be like, okay, well, how many people did the police interact with in 2024?
Yeah.
Well, now all of a sudden that's like less than 1%. It's like 0.000 something percent of police interactions resulting
fatal shooting.
A fatal shooting. So you have to kind of like break down the stats a little more than what our press generally likes to break them down.
Yeah.
And to get to the bottom of it.
Right.
On the other side of things, you good on time?
Yeah.
On the other side of things, I wanted to quick talk about officers killed in the line of duty. Shoot, I lost my page.
Bro.
I lost the FOP put out stats for the officers shot and killed in 2024. And so I wanted to take a look at that as well.
Find it.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. See, this is a great thing about video.
So I didn't see this number, so I'm looking forward to this.
Are you? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not excited about it, but like,
yeah, no, I understand.
It's
what
not
you're saying.
something to be excited about, but
yeah. So those numbers that we were just talking about, that is just like harped. Our press harps on that. Oh, this guy was shot by the police. What isn't seen in our mainstream media very much is when an officer is killed in the line of duty. I don't think there's near enough reporting on officers killed in the line of duty. In 2024, 342 officers were shot in the line of duty. 50 were killed by gunfire. A total of, I'm trying to find the amount of officers, the total amount of officers killed. But yeah, so 342 officers were shot in the line of duty. 50 were killed by gunfire during 2024. And 61 were ambush style attacks on law enforcement this year, which is really, I think, going up. The ambush style. Yeah, the ambush style. So this is what the National Fraternal Order Police stated. They regret to report that as of midnight on 31 December, there were 342 officers shot in the line of duty in 2024. It's actually down 9% from 2023, up 3% from 2022. Of those officers shot, 50 of them were killed. That's up 8% from 2023 and down 19% from 2022. 2022 was a especially deadly year.
Right.
The year with the highest number of officers shot through this date was 2023, when 378 officers were shot through the entire year. There have been 61 ambush-style attacks on law enforcement officers this year. These ambush-style attacks have resulted in 79 officers shot, 18 of whom were killed. So, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of police shot that, I mean, I don't know. When you put a figure out like that, I don't know if most people are surprised thinking it would be more or think it would be less. I don't, since I'm in this stuff all the time, like this is generally, what we're seeing year in, year out, but you don't really hear about it very much.
Yeah.
You don't hear very much about, officers being shot in the line of duty. I don't think you hear enough about it on mainstream media. Would you agree or not agree with that?
I agree. And we're even in that world. So, you know what I mean? Like we would be attentive toward it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I see it all the time
right.
on my X feed because of people I follow and stuff, but you don't really see much on the news unless it's, unless multiple officers are killed at the same incident and then you'll see stuff like that. But yeah, it just doesn't seem.
And it's brutal because you're asking these guys to go fight the bad guys. And that's what you're asking them to do. That's what they volunteered for. And then they're getting blasted for it,
Yeah. I think the last officer killed in 2024, I think was on New Year's. Was it New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
But generally speaking, right now in the United States, an officer is shot like every 24 hours.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's
it's heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that kind of brings us to this law coming out of Florida, the HALO law. Do you know what that stands for?
No. I mean,
so
HALO, high altitude, low opening. That's jumping out of plane stuff there, dude.
Right. Yeah.
So I found this one too. I think, maybe
you did.
Saw it together, but I forwarded it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was right. A cop is shot up every 24 hours in this country.
Dude, Florida seems like a great place to work.
Yeah. So
like as much as I hear coming out of Florida, I'm like, man, that'd be nice to work.
Yeah, I agree. They are very friendly towards their law enforcement. Yeah. And a lot of that is from the governor, DeSantis.
Yep.
He's very pro
and in reality, the whole legislation, the whole legislative branch, because they're the ones who make the law. Like he can suggest them, but like.
So this HALO law stands for honoring and listening to our officers. And that's what it stands for. And so basically it's created a 25-foot buffer around all first responders, law enforcement, fire, EMS, when they're doing their job. There was an article out of the Fire and Safety Journal Americas that I highlighted a couple things. The state of Florida has implemented the HALO law effective January 1st, 2025, as reported by Fire Law Blog. This new law mandates a 25-foot buffer zone around first responders actively performing their duties, regardless of location. The law protects law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Under the HALO law, individuals who ignore verbal requests to back away and intentionally impede, threaten, or harass first responders can face criminal charges. Violations are classified as second-degree misdemeanors that are punishable under Florida statutes. What do you think? Good law?
Love it. Yeah.
Why?
It just creates space, right? It lets the officer do their job. And it also actually gives some teeth to the officer saying back up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because police officers have always been able to say back up, but that doesn't mean there was any teeth to make someone back up.
Right.
It was the old back up. If you don't back up, I'm going to arrest you for disorderly conduct in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Because you're impeding the investigation.
Or obstruction, depending on what they're doing.
I think it's good law.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, you look at these ambush style attacks that we just talked about. You look at the amount of officers who are being shot during the course of a year. You look at the level of violence out there against the police and the level of violence in these jurisdictions. And it gives teeth to officers to be able to be like, get back. And here's the thing, during the course of your duties, I mean, just imagine doing your job. If you're not in law enforcement, just imagine doing your job and someone wants to be in your space.
Right.
And that's really what officers are dealing with. Ever since smartphones came out, especially in urban areas, as soon as you are engaged in police work, you have people with their phones out and in your face, just
like jaw jacking. It's not just standing there.
Right.
It's jawing with you. It's distracting the officer. It's creating chaos in a scene that's already
chaotic,
probably somewhat chaotic.
Right. And I think it does. You can tell this law helps officers in Florida when they say back up. Because people are like, I can stand wherever I want. This is a free country. This is a sidewalk. I can do whatever I want. Now it gives officer authority to say, no, back up. And if you don't back up, you're going to get arrested.
Right.
And some people are like, well, that's kind of overstep. I think there's some people that would say that's an overstep.
Yeah.
An officer doesn't like how close you are. So now, isn't that like a violation of their First Amendment rights to speak and be where they want to be and
to travel the land.
But you look at some other countries, there's countries that you go to, if the police are doing their work, you don't dare walk past them.
Don't even look, right?
You don't even look at them.
Yeah.
You go to the other side of the street and you walk way around them. You won't even dare get in their space because they'll house you.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times in these urban environments, it's so prevalent. This desire by people to want to encroach on the space of officers is so prevalent that, you and I experienced when we worked in Lancaster City, if we had one or two officers dealing with someone, all the rest of the officers there were pointed out.
Yep.
And watching and protecting.
Basically a perimeter, like
face out perimeter, because you had people that wanted to get in
or jump in and fight the officer.
Yeah.
Like that's happened.
Yeah. So the actual law says the act that they passed said an act relating to impeding, threatening, or harassing first responders. That's providing definitions prohibiting a person after receiving a warning not to approach from a first responder who is engaged in a lawful performance of legal duty from violating such warning and approaching or remaining within a specified distance the first responder with specified intent, providing criminal penalties, providing an effective date. So basically, it says it is unlawful for a person after receiving a verbal warning not to approach from a person he or she knows or reasonably should know is a first responder who is engaged in the lawful performance of a legal duty to knowingly and willfully violate such warning and approach or remain within 25 feet of the first responder with intent to impede or interfere with the first responder's ability to perform such duty, threaten the first responder with physical harm, or harass the first responder. So this isn't just for police. This is EMS, back up.
Yeah.
Fire, back up. So I think it's a good law. So
yeah, way to go to Florida.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think it's a good law, and I wish Pennsylvania would pass something like it.
Yeah. The thing is, like, okay, so let me look at this from the other side. So the other side, you hate the police, you want to take video, you're allowed to do that. right? You're
Sure.
allowed to hate the police. You're allowed to, I guess you're allowed to yell at the police. You're allowed to curse at the police.
Mhm.
You just have to do it from a distance now.
Yeah. And
Because
as,
I think it got too much to where you could do anything you wanted to the police and they had no recourse.
right. And Florida's saying,
Florida's saying, no, not anymore.
Yeah.
Now you have to give the police some space. You can still yell and scream at them. You can
Mhm.
harass them. You just have to be 25 feet away from them.
Yeah.
And I like that. And the thing is this, if you want to catch the police doing something bad, like, good luck.
Right.
You're going to have a really hard time. Almost all police officers now are wearing body cameras.
Right.
There's videos everywhere. Cops are good at their job. That's the general statement. There
Right.
are some bad cops,
Sure.
but like, cops are doing the good work for the community.
right.
So like, if you want to catch them, good luck.
And I think
Like, videotape me, but videotape me from 25 feet away now.
yeah. And people are constantly videotaping
Yeah.
officers on the street.
Dude, phones come
get,
out as soon
I
as
get
you pull a
videotaped
card
all
over,
the
right?
all the time. I get videotaped all the time. But
I like that we say videotape now. Like, there's no tape. It's just,
video recorded.
yeah, you're just recorded. Yeah,
That shows our age.
I know.
But
Here, let me rewind this here.
but the bottom line is I'm being video recorded all the time now
Yeah.
anyways, because I have a body cam on. And I think it's interesting, all the people out there who are claiming that the police are evil, systemically racist, just goons out there, were like salivating at body cams going up on everyone. And it hasn't shown, like,
it's helped police.
It's
more
very
than-
rare that a body cam is coming out, and there are cases for sure that are coming out. The recent case with, I didn't look into this case very much. I think it was an inmate in, I can't remember what state, that was beaten and ended up dying. That came out. I just saw body cam of two officers, again in a jurisdiction I can't recall, who got a call for a death investigation or something, and they get there and the guy's still alive, and they left.
Ooh.
And joked about it because it was the end of their tour of duty, and they were about to go home, and they're like, we'll just let the other guys handle it, and they left, and they didn't help this guy. So there are there's bad cops out there, and
thankfully that's being brought to light.
right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, there was this idea that when body cams got put on police officers, there was going to be like a huge amount of video out there of officers doing the wrong thing and not performing their duties with honor and courage, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And honestly, body cams, I think, have done the exact opposite of what those who hate the police wanted. It's shown like, hey, these guys are actually putting up with an extreme amount of abuse.
Right. Nobody else gets that abuse.
Like,
nobody.
Every single thing they do, they're putting up with an extreme amount of abuse, and they're actually handling it pretty well. So what wasn't handled well is this rapper, the last thing. So this rapper, his
What's
name
this guy's name?
OG Too Low.
Should I know him? Is he popular?
I don't think so. I have no idea.
He's probably more popular
OG
now.
Yeah, he's real popular now. But he was on this podcast called One on One with Mike D podcast, and I'll put a link to this video
No, it's funny.
in the show notes. I'll put a link to the podcast I was on in the show notes as well for people. I always put a bunch of links in there. But this rapper's on the show, and watching the video, it looks like he's drinking alcohol. And it looks like he might have been smoking weed too. At one point, it looks like he might be holding a blunt. You can't tell if it's just a cigar. But his mannerisms, as someone who has done law enforcement for a very long time, watching this rapper on this podcast, he looks extremely high and or drunk. Like, he's like slurring his words. Like, he is like out of his mind. He had a gun, like not in a holster,
in his
just
right pocket.
in his pocket, in his right pocket.
Yeah.
Tight jeans. During the interview, he like reaches into his pocket to like
his left pocket.
Left pocket. Yeah. He reaches into his left pocket to fix
he's
the
like
gun or
leaning
something.
back.
Yeah. Boom. Fires a shot through his pant leg. And the look on his face, you've never seen someone get sober so fast. He's like,
yeah, it's super funny. And the host is like, who got shot? Somebody got shot? Who got shot?
Yeah. He's like, who shot? He goes,
who shot who?
Who shot who? Like, it's just another day in the office.
Dude, it's super funny,
He's like,
man.
somebody got shot, and they're just kind of looking around, and
who shot who?
And the host is like rubbing his legs nervously, looking around. And he's like, who shot who?
Yeah.
Like, it's just he's and this rapper, he's like sitting like a stone. He has like this wild look on his face,
Yeah.
completely sober.
Was he
It's
injured?
hilarious. No, I don't. I mean, other than like I think
Like a
minor
burn
injury,
or
like
whatever.
a burn. Like
Yeah.
I think he got, and then they
funny.
just carried on with the interview like nothing happened.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And of course, this went viral. So yeah, he's probably,
It's probably popular now.
hey, no press is bad press, right?
Dude, put a gun in a holster, man.
Yeah, put a gun in a holster. I don't understand.
Do you think about when you carry your gun like off duty? Do you think like, man, I often think, man, I don't want to shoot myself, because like it's always in a holster, right? My
Right.
gun's always in a holster,
Right.
But like, there's always that thought, like accident discharge,
Yeah.
like especially because I carry different ways, and I'm like, man, I don't want to shoot myself there, or if I'm sitting down and I'm like moving around a little bit,
I
like,
don't.
You don't think about that?
I don't really think about accidental discharge. Sometimes I do think about it sometimes. I think sometimes I marvel at the fact of how comfortable I am with a gun, and like I'm taking it off, I'm setting it down.
yeah,
And sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm a little too
lax.
lax. Like
Yeah.
I'm just, because I'm so comfortable with it. It's just something I put on, I take off, and I don't really, I'm like, am I really paying attention to doing this safely? Like,
Yeah.
because you're just like,
Because it's like your keys,
It's like
basically. It's,
taking
literally
keys
taking your
and
keys
wallet,
and throwing
yeah.
them in a.
so you're like, yeah. And so sometimes I think about that. Like
Yeah.
I should probably put more thought into what I'm doing here, my actions as I'm.
I almost always tell myself, this gun's loaded. I literally say that.
That's
like,
good.
I say it out loud. So like as I pull it from
Yeah.
from my safe, I'm like, this gun's loaded. As I put it on both my duty gun, my off duty guns, like I'll grab them. This gun's loaded. And like I was concerned that my MOS, is that what it's called?
Yeah. RMR, like
Yeah,
your red dot.
The red dot.
Yeah.
I'm not a gun guy.
I'm not.
I mean, I carry a gun, but like whatever. So the red dot, I was like, man, is this thing working? So like in the holster, I pull it out and it's still in the holster, and
Right.
I'm looking for the red light and I can't find it. I'm like, what in the world? So like I unload my gun. I'm like, and then I literally say, this gun's unloaded. Like I say it out loud. This gun's
Really?
unloaded. Yeah.
Good on
And
you.
then I was messing with it and it was fine. I don't know what
You couldn't find it.
it was fine. Everything was fine. So then I loaded it back up and I'm like, this gun's loaded. I do it almost all of the
That's
time.
really good. I should
I
probably
say it
start
out loud
doing it.
because it's audible and you're saying it, you're thinking about it, and you hear it.
Right. Yeah.
But I do that almost every time I put my gun
Yeah.
on.
No, that's good, because we all know officers who had
Dude,
accidental discharges.
That's
And,
brutal. It's
I mean,
scary.
yeah.
I mean, dude, I've been carrying a gun for 23 years
Right.
or more.
Yeah.
And I've never had an accidental discharge.
Yeah.
I've never had like an
Right.
snap moment, like none.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Thank God. And
Yeah.
but
I wanna
sometimes I'm
stay that
too,
way. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes
lax.
I feel like I'm too comfortable around guns. Like
But don't put a gun in your
your pants pocket.
Like, come on, man. Unless you're not going to have one in the pipe, which is super dumb anyway. But like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
super dumb. That's
right.
super funny though.
yeah. Yeah.
Who shot who? Who shot who?
I had a call one time where a guy, had a holster on, and he was going someplace and he wanted to move the gun from his side to his back.
Yeah.
And he, when he did that, he accidentally shot himself in the butt cheek, and it came out as a shooting
Yeah.
at a very populated area. And I was like, and dispatch was like, they gave it out as a shooting at a very populated area. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, here we go. And then they gave the details of, a subject shot himself in the parking lot or whatever. I'm like, so is this like a suicide, like attempt, or an actual suicide? So I'm going there, and then dispatch asked me, do you want me to notify other units? I said, no. I didn't. I was like, if you put out over the radio that there was a shooting at this location, I'm going to have people from all over the county. And I was like, based on the new details, I'll handle this.
I'll figure this out myself.
I handle
That's
it.
funny.
Like,
Dude, there's I heard a story of like tactical guys hitting a house and they're all stacked up, and like there's like a scuffle, or they're like moving bad guys like past the stack, and somebody in the middle of the stack, something got grabbed up on their gear, and it was a accidental discharge. So they fired and it went straight down into the sidewalk from an AR.
Wow.
So like it got
Yeah.
up on his gear.
Yeah.
But it wasn't unsafe.
Yeah.
Or somehow it got off safe, and then the trigger gets pulled. Like, dude, that's
Yeah.
so scary.
Yeah.
But thankfully nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt.
Right.
And
Yeah.
apparently the guys are like, what just happened?
Right.
Because you're not expecting it.
I was on a scene of an accidental discharge one time.
Really?
Yeah. And we had a suspicious vehicle in the parking garage that got called in by an officer who had just got off duty, said, hey, there's this van driving around in the parking garage. And I think around that time we were getting like motorcycle thefts and stuff. So, and that's what these guys were doing. They were basically stealing motorcycles and putting them in a van so you couldn't see them. It was like a smart idea. So we parked our cruisers and blocked the exits.
Yeah.
And walked in to the parking garage. And me and my partner, he goes back, he goes to the driver, and I start going back. I think I was going back around the van because we got him to stop there in the parking garage. And as I'm going back behind the van, I see the reverse lights flash and I yell, he's going to run. And sure enough, they take off, go out, slam into the gate.
In the van.
In the van, they take off. So me and my partner on foot take off. They go flying out of the parking garage, slam into the gate. They might have hit a cruiser too that was parked there. I don't remember. And so all of us are like now running out of the parking garage. There's like 4 or 5 officers there now. And we get up to the driver's side, and one officer had his gun out in his hand. And this guy, the driver, like bails out into him and knocks into him. Accidental discharge behind the officer, accidental discharge behind him, barely misses my partner, goes between his arm and his chest. And somehow there was no sympathetic gunfire because everyone's like, who shot? Like guys are like trying to take cover. Now everyone's guns out. Like we're like piping these guys and everything. And so we get everyone under arrest. Thankfully, we didn't shoot these guys.
Yeah.
There was no sympathetic fire. Everyone was super disciplined. And afterwards we're like, what, who shot? Like, and here, he got hit and either his finger was in the trigger or his trigger got hit or something as his arm's going back and fires behind him.
They say that, right? When you squeeze one hand, both hands kind of squeeze.
Yeah.
But, dude, policing's not easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're carrying a gun.
It was scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was super scary because my partner's like, he's like, I felt the round go between my arm and my chest. And we found the bullet hole in the building, like in another gate that was there. And I remember I had like I just bought a cup of coffee, and after it was all over, like I like drank the whole cup of coffee. I was so amped. I was like,
yeah, that's funny.
So, but thankfully no one was hurt. So
that's good.
All right. So just like Gary said, subscribe, like, comment. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll be able to view the video portion of this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Podbean. Only patrons can view it on Podbean. Okay. I'm not going to get into all the details. But yeah, if you're a patron, you can watch it on Podbean. Otherwise, out to the public on YouTube and Spotify.
And of course, audio, it's everywhere it's always been.
Audio, wherever you listen to your podcast.
Are there other buttons to push on YouTube? Is there like a bell button that you like something?
I don't know.
I don't know anything about it.
Dude, I am... We don't know what we're doing, Gary.
Dude, comments. Again,
we don't know what we're doing.
It's not that hard.
We don't know what we're doing. But just and let us know. Give us feedback if you feel like the lighting's terrible or whatever. So call Gary, complain to Gary. Don't complain to me. If you complain to me, I'm just going to shut you down.
Whoa. Wow.
Out.
All right, man.
Are you yawning?